If you don't do something when I get home, I'm going to kill myself.
When you in the set, but you ain't from the set, never fit in that, so it's really till I'm dead.
God is sick and tired of hearing from me about the same stuff. People don't benefit from my presence anyways, so I was gonna go and I was gonna jump.
Yahweh met me there, I tied it on my neck.
Where's God when I feel like taking my life?
I was 11. I remember sitting down at this park bench and just first time I thought, like, I don't want to do this. I don't really want to live.
I was in the whip trying to mask up. What kind of man gon' cry at the party now?
I had these core beliefs and these core ideas that my presence in any given situation it's not wanted. I make things worse. There were certain things that would be said that started to just kind of shape my thoughts about myself. That's the first time that came around. I don't want to do this.
My feelings talking way too loud. Don't let me in and kick me out.
It continued, and evolved and grew and got louder. I got good at lying. I got good at keeping secrets. I wanted to convince people that I was great. Maybe if I can convince you that I'm doing great, then maybe I can convince me. I was the life of the party in the majority of places I was in.
I feel all alone.
I became a liar and got really good about not talking about pain. Didn't know what to do with those emotions. So then you go, oh, well, you tuck them and you make sure nobody ever knows about this.
If we up, we was up, how you switch?
At the time I was going to a church that was this is what life with Jesus looks like. When you're feeling this, God's gonna take that away and all of these things. And I was like, I don't know anything about any of this. And I actually remember I went to a church camp when I was 12. And that is when I saw all this actual miraculous healing, people having spiritual encounters with God. And I was like, oh, so this stuff is real. This is not just something that my parents raised me with. God is real and he wants to encounter people, but I've never encountered that. So what I'm getting from this now is God is real. He just doesn't care about me. I was like, God, I need you to change this. I don't feel that joy and that peace and all those things. And it's like, well, maybe these encounters only happen at a place like this, at a church camp. And so I made absolute sure I went back to that camp every single year because this is where God is. And nothing would happen. And so then things would get darker. Things would get darker and things would get darker. Transparency was just it just wasn't a thing. I was not willing to go, this is what I'm struggling with. I am fine. I'm okay. This is not that bad. So it's like this cocktail of emotions and different lies at the same time. It's like I'm lying to people and I'm lying to myself. I wrote a song when I was 16 called Fatherless, and I put it on SoundCloud and all that. That was the most honest I was able to be at the time. It was just an angry 16-year-old boy, just screaming at God, just broken to pieces. I had a mentor that I sat and he listened to the song and he was like what's going on? But I remember him sitting with me through stuff and he was walking me through scripture and all that kind of stuff. Certain stuff would be said and sometimes it would work as a Band-Aid, but because I was unable to be completely honest about where I was at, it's a Band-Aid.
I was 11 the first time I thought to take my life. That's too young for that. Something in my head ain't right.
So I was 18 It wasn't even some kind of big, like, moment. I just realized I'm tired. I'm tired. Like, I'm just tired. I'm tired of lying to people. I'm tired of lying to myself. But this is still not a thing that you talk about.
That boy was closer to the edge than he been in a while. He planned to throw himself from a bridge after handing out smiles.
I was gonna go and I was gonna jump. People don't benefit from my presence anyways. So I'm just like, for what? Leave a note for what? I'm just gonna go and do this.
Live on this earth. Yeah.
Truth is, sometimes I pray that melatonin works to speed of light, so I can say I ain't had no thoughts of ending it tonight.
I wish I had like a more concrete reason for why, like, I didn't that day. There was just something that convinced me to just hold on a little longer. There was the tiniest shimmer of hope. I know I was going back to this camp this year, and this is my last year. I don't lose anything if I wait 2 months. I actually went to that camp and I was like, God, like, this is it. This is it. I promise you, if you don't show up, if you don't do something when I get home, I'm going to kill myself. I'm not gonna hold on. I'm not gonna, like, I'm out. It was the last night, and I was worshiping, and I was singing these lyrics that I didn't believe, and I'm just like crying out, and then this thought pops into my head, and the thought was like, this doesn't change anything. You know, and I'm trying to ignore the thought and go back to worshiping, and the thought is there and it's louder. And then I'm just gonna start combating. Like, I'm gonna combat this. Like, no, like, you know, speaking all the things that has been spoken to me before. No, God cares about me, and I'm loved, and I'm here, and I'm his child, and all this stuff. And I'm trying to argue with this voice. And then I realized that it was a voice. This is not like a thought anymore. This is like, I'm hearing. Have I like actually lost my mind? And then the voice was like, if you're so certain, you know, God cares about you so much, don't you think it's interesting that I've spoken to you way more than he ever has? That just broke me. I remember running out of the sanctuary, and I'm sitting there, I'm crying my eyes out, and I'm like, God, like, why? What is it about me? Like, why? Because you're in here, you're in there with all of them, and what is it about me? Voice is like, let me show you how much more real I am than God. This voice like materializes, and I'm just in utter terror. I run back inside, and I'm just like laying there on the floor. This moment happens where I feel like I experienced the voice of God, like, break through. It feels like he was mid-sentence. You know, it feels like he was always speaking, and he's just saying, like, look at what you mean to me. Like, look at the depths, look at the lengths that the enemy has gone to destroy you. Like, it's because of me. It's because you mean this to me. And that was the moment that I actually decided I was gonna start really following Jesus. I actually thought for the longest time that it's all fixed. These thoughts are gone and we've defeated them and it's over. But that was not the last time that these thoughts were around. I still have never spoken with anybody about this. I'm like, oh, God healed me, he saved me, it's good. I don't have to talk about this ever. You have to bring something to the light in order for God to deal with it. Because as long as you keep it in the dark, you're saying, this is mine. I became aware of how broken I was. I wouldn't talk to anybody. And so here comes old friends, old thoughts that are very familiar. So they just slip right back in where they were. Fall into sin. My thought process is right back to, I am so broken. This can't be fixed. I can't be fixed. I can't get better. I shouldn't be here. I don't want to be here. So I would mess up. And every time, I'm not going, Father, like, forgive me, cover me with your grace. Like, I'm going, God is sick and tired of hearing from me about the same stuff. He's so tired. And you know what? I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. And it's right back. It's right back to the same patterns.
Got the same drive, I've been swerving. I'm getting tired of acting like I ain't.
I had a friend, he had a presence about him. He was never gonna look down on you for anything. I told him, I feel like I am just destructive, and I feel like I'm just ashamed, and like, I don't really want to live. He just said, you're forgiven, right? I think that's really what I needed to hear in that moment. I was like, okay, well, this is a moment. This was okay. Like, I said this, and this was okay. Then I had some other friends, and we were talking, and I shared that. We were having like a Bible study, and I shared that with them, and like, that was okay. And like, we talked, and like, this was encouraging. Sharing took away the power of something being kept in the dark. Now somebody knows, and now they're gonna talk to me. They're gonna talk to God about it. This can't just disappear. It's not a secret anymore. It's not a thing that I just struggle with by myself. I continued to share. I remember I talked with my older brother, and then my older brother tells me that he struggled with depression. And a couple years ago, he was going to like walk out into traffic. And so then in that moment, I was like I'm not by myself. And I think that moment just caused like a share spree. I finally understood like the power of like transparency. And even in the music, it's so funny. I dove into just a little bit of the feelings. I started to see some of the results from that. Some people would tell me like, yo, I didn't know anybody else felt like this. And I've never spoken to anybody about this. And then I started to hear people started to reach out and say, hey, I thought about taking my life. And I heard this song, and it showed me that I'm not by myself. You don't have to pretend like you're okay right now, but I want you to be able to believe that you will be. Jesus offers hope. He offers hope. That's the difference. We're still gonna go through everything that people are gonna go through, but we have access to hope. We have access to peace.
He's here.
This doesn't last forever. I don't think that I've just gotten to the point where, well, these things they're just gone. Jesus said that one day he's gonna fix everything. September of 21 was the last time that I had a thought that was like, I don't want to do this anymore. God exists in the practical and in the spiritual. I do practical things. I drink water. I go outside. I write down 5 things that I'm grateful for every day, and I dwell on those things. It leaves no room for the enemy to sneak in. I'm not focused on, I don't want to be here, because I'm thinking about the things that I'm grateful for. It's impossible to feel like the feelings of depression and presently be dwelling on things that you're truly grateful for. It doesn't have to be, oh, I'm grateful for every person in my life. You know, some days I'm like, I am grateful for butterflies today. I like those. I have to be intentional like that, or else, I leave room to slip. There's nothing that you've done that God can't redeem. You were made in his image. You're an image bearer first, before anything else. And so when you step into Jesus, like, he doesn't look at you like, oh, well, you're just the sum of what you've done. You're his kid. As long as you keep these things to yourself, they're gonna seem true. You have to take the steps. If you don't talk to somebody, those things they're gonna seem true to you until you do. And once you tell somebody something, you'll see that it's okay. And not just anybody, but tell somebody. Tell somebody.
Just like everybody else.
Hold up. Thank you for watching, sharing, ringing that bell, and dropping a comment below. We love creating these inspirational faith stories for you and thousands of others. Now, all the stories on this channel are brought to you in partnership with Impactus and are donor funded, which means people have given so that you can be encouraged in your faith. Yeah, people care that much about you. And today, we'd like to invite you to be a part of this mission with us. This Is Me TV exists to encourage and empower the online generation to live unashamed for God and use their God-given gifts to influence culture. We do this by creating stories like the one you've just watched. And to date, we've had over 1.8 million viewers watched and be encouraged in their faith right here. It's mind-blowing to see how God has and will continue to use This Is Me TV. So would you be willing to join us today and help us equip this generation for a life of purpose and godly impact? The link's below, or head on over to impactus.org. Much love from us all, and thank you so much for considering this partnership.